Good morning. I just got a $40,000 check from Hartford. It's a workers' compensation insurance company. Let me show you. And before you think that, oh shit, that's a lot of money, I do not want you to admire this situation. It's actually a very terrible situation. And let me explain to you why. So last year this time, I had over 150 to 170 employees working for us at Voro. I was running this pretty huge company with multiple locations and operations within the US, Australia, and China. It has grown into this crazy operation for a micro-mobility industry company. So in the micro-mobility industry, the biggest company is, I think, two public company, and they're not even public in the US, right? So they're public in Asia. It's almost impossible to be a micro-mobility company and become public in the US because of the fluctuating demand cycle and the product life cycle. New products launch every year or sometimes every quarter, so it's quite a very competitive space where the landscape changes very often. So why I'm receiving this $40,000 check from Hartford on workers' compensation? We had a lot of employees. That means I had a HR manager just doing the recruiting, onboarding, training. And I think there's a lot of YouTube channels that are showing how successful they are. I think my channel is mostly to show you my struggles, and it's not everything are nice and dainty. When it's the orange light already, just slow down, bro. When you're chased. And what happened was that we had a lot of employees. Then the HR manager, I have changed, I think, 3 HR managers. And I'm the kind of guy that I will hire slow, but I will fire you very fast if I don't think it's gonna work out. So we changed 3 HR managers. And when I first came to the US, because in Singapore, it's different. For you to become a HR manager or anything HR related or finance related, there's a professional body that governs the training and certification for all the HR laws and for the finance managers. If you are a CPA, in Singapore there's one unified governing body that trains and certify whether you actually know what you're doing. So for HR managers in the US, when we were recruiting, I realized that, hey, there are so many self-proclaimed HR manager. Challenge of running a business in the US, let's say if you are a business over 50 employees, it kind of becomes very tricky for the business owner to start to understand each and every city and state HR compliance. For example, in the city of LA, this is based on what I remember last year. Okay, in the state of California, each city has its own HR compliance law. So our previous office was in Panorama City. So there is a minimum wage that governs, just for example, right? There's a minimum wage for Panorama City, and there's a minimum wage for City of Los Angeles, minimum wage for City of Irvine. So every city is different. Of course, in our company, if you are the lowest pay you more than the industry average, just so that we can try to get someone with more experience and someone that can get onboarded quickly. We save on the onboarding and the training time. So these 3 HR managers that I fired and recruited, I remember the first one that we have recruited. So there is a professional certification in the US called SHRM, called the Society of Human Resource Management. And within SHRM, there are multiple layers of certification, whether this HR manager is SHRM level 1 or SHRM level 2. This is a major issue for me, because for you to get a SHRM certification, you can practice a SHRM. You can get a SHRM certificate from one city, but you do not know what is it on the other city. So what happened was that we had a HR manager that practiced in, I think, Texas. Then she moved over to LA. We had her for 3 weeks. She knows how to do onboarding, but she doesn't know how to do recruiting. I think that was the problem. And with HR manager, there are so many multi skill sets that is required to be a well-rounded HR manager. You need to know recruiting, onboarding, training, development, and one-to-one like counseling each employee when there's an issue, offboarding. So there are HR managers that are comfortable with recruiting, onboarding, but do not know how to terminate an employee, because there are specific rules and methods you need to follow when you terminate an employee. Then in the city of LA, then the second HR manager that I hired, very experienced, come from a big corporate company, but this individual did not know how to manage insurance and 401k for the employees. And of course, I think I had to guide her how to do it, because when we hire really good people at, let's say, 87,000 a year annually minimum for HR manager, I expect you to know all this stuff, right? So of course, during the interview phase, I think I only had myself to blame for this, because there are so much to learn and it's a humbling experience. There are a lot of things to master, and as a business owner, sometimes it gets very challenging to master each dimension of running a business. You just have to learn very fast. So this HR manager, the last HR manager that I terminated, she doesn't know how to actually do recruiting. So we did, so I think one skill set that I have been looking for whenever I hire somebody is, I think the core skill set is how fast can you learn? Because every business is different, and when you hire a professional manager, they need to learn about your business really quickly. Like, what kind of people do you guys hire? What kind of culture do you guys have? And what kind of speed do you operate in? Because if your business is a growing business, you need to operate at 1,000 miles per hour speed. And if a HR manager coming from a corporate world, that they only operate at 30 miles per hour. So you have to kind of fine tune. If they're willing to adapt, then that will work. But if they have came from a previous startup before, and that startup was a wildly successful startup, it doesn't mean that this employee can have a second chapter where they can do the same thing and operate at a very highly efficient pace. So this last HR manager knows how to do everything, but the one thing that she doesn't know is the workers' compensation. So it really blew my mind at the time, but I didn't have time to go and think about workers' compensation coding. So for the state of California, and I believe other states as well, whenever you are recruiting any individual, you have to put in their job title. And the job title has a specific label code. Now the issue is that what you call a specific job title does not mean that this is what the general public recognize it for. For example, a warehouse worker could be an assembler, a packer, a picker, a warehouse manager. So all this definition has to be made very clear. But the software that we use at the time and still is called ADP. We also changed payroll software multiple times. We had a previous payroll software called Paychecks. It is the absolute worst payroll software that ever existed. This payroll software cost me so much money. And I'm talking about 6 figures in losses because of this payroll software. Paychecks does not allow you to clock in breaks. Okay, so this is a whole different topic by itself. Paychecks not only does not allow you to clock breaks, employees in California have to clock in their breaks. I'm not talking about the meal breaks, I'm talking about the 15 minutes break. Every 4 hours you work, you have to take a 15 minutes break. And if you're above 50 employees, and for those other businesses or entrepreneurs out there, if you're above 50 employees, Be very careful about this. There are career swindlers that are in the state of California where they join your company. They try to see if you have a software that governs meal breaks. So these career swindlers will engage and retain a lawyer for free to go after companies that seem like they have a lot of money and sue them. So this becomes a very big problem because these are predatory law firms. I would even say those accident injury lawyers are predator lawyers because they just try to sue and retain a case if they find that there's money to be made with this company. Throughout this conversation, you might think that I have lost faith in humanity. I pretty much lost quite a lot of faith in humanity while running this business in the US. We got two cases 2 years ago. Both of them are settled already. One case is with this guy. He joined us for a week and he took his rest breaks, but Paychecks does not record the rest breaks. He went to retain a lawyer and say that we did not give him any rest breaks. And we went through a whole deposition where the lawyers interviewed the supervisor at the time, the manager at the time, that hey, he took his rest breaks. I was running this company with multiple departments at the time. There is no way for me possible during operational hours to go and check hey, whether a warehouse worker has took his rest break or not. I'm very hands-off in terms of leadership, and that might be my mistake at the time. You just cannot manage too many things. That's what I think. Because if you are managing too many things on your plate, you waste a lot of time doing unproductive stuff. So this lawsuit cost me, I think, $20,000 just to retain a lawyer and fight back, right? Because it's in my blood that if you try to bully me, I will try to fight back and I will go down swinging. So this case, looking back at this case, I think there are cases in life where you have to accept for what it is and make a business decision that, okay, this is not worth fighting, settle for $3K and done. I just didn't want to pay him because this is so fucked up, in my opinion. You didn't do much work. You were only here for 1 week. You took your rest breaks, but you lied about taking rest breaks, and because of you trying to get a quick one over a company, you went and engaged a lawyer to go and give this company a lot of inconvenience. We settled the case in the end for I think $2,000, but I spent $20,000 retaining a lawyer to fight back the case. So that is one of the cases where I kind of grew up and stopped fighting too many cases at once, because some cases are just not worth it. But there are no laws governing the employer side, because the state of California is very employee oriented, and that's okay. You know, I get it, because there are companies that are mistreating employees. There are actually a lot of companies that cares about the employees and put in the extra mile to make sure that employees are happy working there. And I know a lot of business friends that actually try to do that. Then another employee case which is absolutely ridiculous. This guy uses his phone all the time, and I don't even manage him because I'm managing a director that manages a manager, then the manager manages a supervisor, and the supervisor manages him. So he took a lot of phone breaks. You know, he needs to do a lot of phone calls during he's a mechanic, and he needs to do a lot of phone calls when he's working. His job does not require him to use a phone, but he needs to take a lot of personal calls, and all the time we let him take his calls. Supervisor testified that, hey, he took his rest breaks. Same shit, he took his rest breaks. Manager testified that he took his rest breaks. Then all his surrounding peers testified that he took his rest breaks. But for some reason, he retained a lawyer saying that, hey, and he didn't pay anything for the lawyer. That case cost me at least 120,000 just to retain a HR lawyer to go after, to fight back on this case and defend ourselves. And in the end, we settled the case for, I think, $10,000, which is so stupid. And the guy was working for me for 3 years during COVID when everyone was laid off, especially his position as a mechanic. We cannot have you in the office. So I remember that I let him go for 2 weeks to go home, but we'll still pay you for 2 weeks and see what happens during the quarantine and the shutdown. So I think that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter in a business and professional setting. If you show a lot of empathy, maybe you get bite back. But I think I will just continue to be who I am. And if I show you empathy, and if you end up betraying me, it is what it is. It just shows who you are. So back to the topic. The last HR manager did not know how to grade each labor code. So we have mechanical technicians and they were graded as factory assemblers. So the risk code for factory assembler is a lot riskier. I think 20 times or 22 times per dollar spent on the hourly rate of their employee. So there are specific risk code for each position. For example, if you're working at office has low risk, does not have injuries. Hey bro, what's up?
What happened to your nose?
Oh, I want to breathe better, bro. So this last HR manager did not know how to code the labor code of each job position, and that became an issue because we overpaid to the state of California the workers' compensation tax. I had a new guy that came in this year and regrade all the coding and realized that holy shit, we overpaid by 40,000 just last year. This is not considered all the previous years. I'm gonna go after them when I'm more free and I can ask our new person to go and recode everything. There you have it. This check belongs to me in the first place. We shouldn't have paid this to the state of California, but it is what it is. I'm happy that we got it back. And in maybe the next few videos, I'm gonna show you another crazy story. I overpaid IRS by $1.4 million. How the hell did it happen? The next few videos, when I receive my first tax refund, I'm gonna show you and tell you more about how it happened. And this year is a great year for me because I get to unbuild the company and get all our shit together. And I feel like this is the first time I finally start to get back control of the company. And yeah,